Welcome everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Just wanted to say welcome and Croeso from Cardiff Libraries this morning. My name's Gordon. It's really lovely to be here with you. We've been celebrating the Winter of Wellbeing for some weeks now, and it's really exciting to have special events like this one before we move properly onwards into the spring, which is knocking on the door. So really pleased to have you all here this morning. Now, we know this event is especially important too amongst a number of events that we've had, because we know the issue of diversity and inclusion is not only being addressed in the book world, but that it has a real impact on the well-being of readers and on our understanding of each other as we move forward. Now, libraries across Wales are really glad to have this debate as part of the Winter of Wellbeing campaign. And it's been great to have had so much interest from colleges and schools who are watching today either live or catching up online. Now, in a moment, I'm going to pass over to our chair for this morning, the award-winning poet Marvin Thompson, who's a creative lead at Literature Wales. And of course, it's wonderful panel of four who we've just seen joining us now on screen, who'll be addressing some important issues. I'll let Marvin do the formal introductions in just a moment. I know that our panel will all want us to come out of this event today considering what is possible, what we can do to make a difference. And I wanted to thank everybody who sent in questions ahead of time. Please also keep your questions and comments coming in the chat box on your screen, and do also switch on subtitles if you'd like them. Just click the live transcription button, which is at the bottom of your screen. So yeah, I think that is everything from me, and Marvin, I'll let you take the lead.
I'm Marvin Thompson, and I will be chairing this meeting today. And let me introduce our panelists. First, we have Connor Allen, who was born and grew up in Newport, where I used to teach, and still lives in South Wales. He is a writer, including for stage and radio, actor for TV and films, and poet who is passionate about inclusion and giving all young people a voice and sense of empowerment. As the Children's Laureate Wales, Connor is working to diversify poetry for children and young people and allow them to see it as a simple expression of how they feel. Brilliant, Connor. Then we have Sita. I'm going to hopefully get his surname correct, Sita. Please correct me if I get it wrong. Sita Brahmachari. Sita has worked to promote diversity all her life, and her first novel, Artichoke Hearts, won the Waterstones Children's Book Prize. And since then, her stories have been honoured by national and international awards and translated into many different languages. She says her protagonists are full of heart and empathy and dare to ask the big questions facing our world today. Sita is a writer in residence at Islington Centre for Refugees and Migrants, and Islington is a place I know well from living in London. Morning to you, Sita. Gwen Couch has worked in libraries for around 5 years, encouraging young people to read and to read more widely. She's currently based at Neath College and is studying for an MA in Library and Information Services Management. She's passionate about social justice issues and promoting reading for pleasure, as well as for well-being, diversity and inclusion. Brilliant. Lovely to have you here, Gwen. And we have Nurashan Siddharthan. And again, Nurashan, if I've got your name slightly pronounced incorrectly, do let me know. Nurashan is on the Diverse Cymru's Young People's Panel and will be presenting them at this debate. Diverse Cymru is a Welsh charity which supports people facing inequality and discrimination because of their race, religion, belief, background, age, disability, gender, or sexual orientation. They are on a mission to drive change in Wales through consultation, storytelling, practical services, and partnership working. So that is our wonderful panel. Please give them a virtual round of applause. I'm going to clap them anyway. I'm going to big up to the panel. Can I say that colloquially? I think I can. Now, some statistics before we start the debate. In 2020, the Observer newspaper did a survey on 575 children's picture books. Unfortunately, only 879 of them featured characters of color. Now, don't forget, picture books are the books that we often start our reading journey on. That really is almost like the foundation stone of our reading. So only 15% of the children in these books were people of color. And that actually falls down to 8% when you think of who were the main protagonists. Only 8% of those books were people or children of color. And when we consider that in England alone, for example, 33.9% of children of primary school age are from a minority ethnic background, we can see the disparity between what people are reading and their own lives. So my first question is this: what does well-being mean to you? And why does this debate around diversity and relevance matter so much to well-being? And I think we're going to start with Connor on this one. Well-being, Connor. Give us some thoughts.
Wow, no easy feat there, Matt. I feel like, personally, diversity and well-being, they're interlinked. So I can only go off, obviously, personal experience. So that's what I always say. I always kind of say to everyone, like, we're all miracles and we all have stories, and each story is individual and unique. So like, when I look at my experience, for example, my favorite book growing up was Harry Potter. You know, my mum would go out at midnight sometimes to go and get me the first copy, and I'd read it all night and I wouldn't even go to sleep just because I wanted to know, you know, and I used to love those books. And I always remember it wasn't until I got older and I reflect back now, but at the time when they announced, obviously, oh, you can come and be a part of Harry Potter, I just had that thought that, well, I can't, because Harry Potter and Ron Weasley, they're not these little light-skinned mixed-race kids from a Newport Council estate. So even though it wasn't like overtly like that, I look back now that I'm older and I reflect and I think, wow, that was my first kind of, or one of the first iterations of me feeling like, oh, I am different. And that's why diversity and representation is so important, because if you don't start to see yourself on pages and in your imagination, you start to feel like you don't exist and your voice doesn't exist and your experience doesn't exist. Linking that in with well-being, obviously then if you feel like you don't exist and you don't belong, then that's like, it's just a fact that just affects your well-being, and your well-being is your physical health, your mental health. That's what I believe well-being is. It's the well-being of you as a person. And I think that the lack of diversity and the lack of representation, even if it doesn't overtly affect you as a youngster, it has those effects, you know, like later on in life. I already felt like I've talked too much, so I'll pass on to someone else. So, you know.
Thank you, Con. That was wonderful. Thank you. Sita, your thoughts on how well-being and diversity are interlinked?
So yeah, just to pick up on what Connor said, really, they completely are. They're kind of like breathing, really, aren't they? And you know, I remember when I grew up, I just wasn't finding those representations in stories like my wide diaspora family. And then when I had my children, I was really amazed to see that in children's books, from, as you said, from, you know, nursery and the foundation years onwards, they weren't there, which is really why I started writing. I wanted to quote to you from the writer that opened my eyes to belonging in stories. Like, that word belonging has been really important in my stories. And it's Maya Angelou, who is still my heroine, really. She says, "The ache for home lives in all of us, the safe place where we can go as we are and not be questioned." And for me, that speaks to well-being, that speaks to diversity, that speaks to who is inside the books and who feels outside the books. And if you don't feel like your story is there, that you're central to the story, you're always like scrabbling to piece yourself together. That's how I felt as a child. And I know that that's how many young people still feel today. And that's why I've kind of been on a mission over the last 10 years to place all of these characters that I wasn't finding in stories into my books.
Oh, wonderful, Sita. Gwen.
Hi, yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think well-being is so linked to diversity, and from the perspective of a librarian, if we're going to be supporting well-being in our libraries through books, we need to ensure that's everyone's well-being. It's not just, you know, one person's well-being, because it is different for everyone, and everyone deserves to feel supported, that their experiences are validated, and there aren't barriers for them as well. So, you know, in terms of making sure we have accessible formats and stuff for people to read, different types of materials, you know, I think it's all about making sure people, I think Sita mentioned a safe space, and I think that's what the library can represent, really. It's somewhere where everyone can come. It's everyone's library, and we support everyone's well-being.
Wonderful, Gwen. Nurashan, how about you?
Thanks, Marvin. No, it's a really good question. And, you know, the difficulty of going last is making sure you don't repeat what everyone said. But what I will say is, I think Sita used a very important word there, which is around belonging. And I think, you know, well-being and diversity are interlinked. You know, you want to be who you are. You want to be able to live your life and be accepted in circles and spaces and in books, that your experiences are valid. And, you know, there are other people out there who are going through similar things and can understand that. And I think it's really important, you know, when we go towards a world which is more fair, more equal, that we start to understand each other. And that comes from love, and love essentially leads to being everyone, accepting of who you are, and leading to better well-being for all. I think when we create spaces that are truly inclusive and truly welcoming, and whether that's stories in books or whether that's spaces in libraries, we'll start to get to know each other a little bit better. And that's where we will truly really understand our experiences and get to a stage where we feel accepted to who we are and learn more about each other.
Wonderful. Well, since you went last, you're going to go first this time for the next question. Should diversity in books be about representation in a way that children and young people can see themselves and their families in books? Or should diversity in books be there to promote empathy and understanding from those who aren't from the diverse categories? What's your thoughts?
Thanks, Marvin. Yeah, another really big question. I guess from a diverse Cymru perspective, I think, you know, our aim is looking at reducing inequalities experienced by those that do have barriers. And, you know, the work that we do, essentially the work on our Young People's Panel takes a holistic approach, making sure young people tackle mental health and get their support around that through taking on different experiences and different activities, especially going out in nature and taking walks and things. And when we look at that, and when we look at, you know, diversity, a lot of the issues and conversations that come up to us is around representation. And, you know, when I was younger, I had a pretty similar experience to Connor. When I read books, I never saw myself reflected in my experience reflected in books that I was reading. And it was only until I started to get a bit older that I started to read books of a wider variety, and really was able to immerse myself in experiences of others, because I think, you know, it is about representation. It is really important that children and young people can see themselves reflected, can see their stories, their feelings, and you know, their thoughts reflected in a character. That is really powerful, because, you know, as you go through the journey of finding out who you are, you know, being a teenager, being a young person, you're still trying to find out what the world around you is, finding out who you are, what you care about. You know, those experiences, those stories play a huge role, and it played a role in me when I started to read a wider variety. And, you know, you start to understand what it is like for others, especially if you didn't have a conversation or you don't really know other people's experiences. You really start to get that feeling, exploring other people's experience through stories. So it can be such a powerful tool. But obviously that is in itself one thing. The other thing is, you know, us talking about, tackling and making more inclusive spaces. I think that's in libraries, as well as, giving authors of diverse backgrounds a more of a chance to publish more books. And I think, still, as you said from your facts, we're not at the stage where we're seeing writers come through. And the more writers who can tell different stories and different experiences, the more young people and children can see themselves and can aspire. And I think there's a point around that. I think, young people, when they read stories and read books, they might be turned off, but if they start to read from people that they look like and can understand some experiences, naturally they'll want to become writers as well. So, it's about representations, it's about inspiring younger people, it's about helping young people and children understand each other better, living through different experiences, whether it's just reading someone's story encapsulates that. So I think a lot of those things. So I'll stop talking, otherwise I'll keep going for another 10 minutes, I think.
Wonderful passion there, wonderful enthusiasm. I love that idea about inspiring children. So Sita, could you talk a little bit about, in terms of diversity, should books be there to reflect the readers or there to teach others about diversity? What's your thoughts?
Oh, I could have listened to Nurushan for much longer, actually. I think, this is I keep doing this with my hands because it's so all of this is so connected. One of the things that I often ask young people is, have you ever read a book like on a bus or in transport where it's just unexpectedly made you laugh out loud or cry? That is because you've been deeply immersed. I think Nurushan used the word immersed in the characters and the story, and you've really felt for them. Now, unless we feel for each other deeply, and unless we kind of try and step out of our own consciousness into how it might feel to walk in someone else's shoes, as a society, we're a less open and understanding place. And I think we've seen that. So I think, for me, there's two things going on here. When I'm writing a character, I'm thinking about, say, Aisha, a Somali refugee survivor in Red Leaves in my story. Now, obviously, I'm not a Somali refugee young woman. So what I did writing that story was I went to work with a group of young women who had that experience. And I worked with them for a year, and we shared our creative stories together. We got to a certain point in the story, and I would write scenes, and I'd come back to them and check them and see what they thought and come back again. It was a dialogue. It's always a dialogue. And at the end of that process, one of the young women put their hands up and they said, "Miss, we want to change the name of the character because," and I felt terribly sad about this. She said, "because we are hardly ever represented in stories. And when people read this character, we want them not to stumble over her name because they were so conscious of how lacking." I think they'd read one other story by Naima B. Roberts, which was a wonderful story, where they had felt that their communities, we talked about individuals, but also communities are important, were represented. I found this a really difficult decision to make because my own father coming to this country, Dr. Brahmachari, when I used to see his name on the door, it was Dr. B. And I used to say to him, "Dad, you should keep your name." So it felt like this was part of the same story. But I had to honor and I had to be in service to them, and I had to change the name of a character to an international name. Because first and foremost, I was in service to those young people that I had worked with, who had helped me to develop that character into something that they wanted to see. So this is a really complex journey in which sometimes, you as the writer have to be listening very closely to the young people who you're working with. And I mean, I don't just write stories sort of out of my imagination. If I'm writing characters who are very little represented in stories, it is a work. It is a work of research and listening and empathy. And then when people read those stories, hopefully their minds are expanded in the same way my mind is expanded as a writer.
So thank you very much for that. I mean, picking up on names, I have stumbled over names as a teacher and even on this panel. And what I always try to give the respect to is, if I get it wrong, I'm the student, you're the teacher. I will learn, and I will get it, and I will respect you, Thank you so much, Sita. Gwen. So just remind you, Gwen, it's all about thinking, should diversity be about in service of the communities who are less represented, and thinking about representing them, or should it be about almost a learning resource for other people? What's your thoughts?
It's a really interesting question, and I think it's quite a complex question as well. I agree with what's been said already. I think there's an element of both, I think. Basically, I think one of the beauties of reading is that we can sort of be transported to another person's viewpoint. We can see the world through their perspective that we might not have sort of thought about before. So as a young person who's maybe trying to make sense of themselves and of the world around them, I think, you know, diverse perspectives can be really helpful in that way. And, you know, I think it can kind of, I'm trying to say here is it can help people empathize with other people, and it's great to celebrate our differences. That's wonderful. But I think as well, it can kind of point out that we are all human, and we have a lot of the same kind of, you know, basic emotions and feelings about things. And you don't necessarily need to be the same type of protagonist that's in a book to connect with them as well. So I think that's really important to kind of widen people's perspectives. And I think if people are only exposed to one type of perspective or one type of protagonist, that can really skew their idea of the world and how they see things. So I do think it's very important to represent people, especially voices that are underrepresented and unheard. But I also think there's another element where it can make other people sort of look at the world around them and appreciate our differences. But like I said, it's not just the differences, it's the similarities. We can all connect, I think.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Gwen. And Connor, same question to you. Should diversity be used as a tool to help people feel as though they belong, or should it be a teaching tool for others, or is it a bit of both?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that everyone said, and it's all interesting that, like, going last, you get to listen to everyone, so you're like, there's a similar theme going. I think all I would say is there's just one question. It's like, why can't we have both? So why can't books? Because what was the question? Yeah, should diversity be about better representation in a way that normalizes, or be there to teach others to promote empathy and understanding? But it's like, well, why can't we have both? Why can't they normalize and teach? Because it's like Plato says, you know, empathy is the highest form of knowledge. So if we empathize with someone, we're walking a mile in their shoes, and we have a better understanding, like, of the human condition by walking in someone else's experience. And I guess once you do that and you have empathy, then you have better representation, because then you start to empathize with other people and you start to normalize other people's experiences to the point that it's not just, oh, it's a minority experience or it's a box ticking exercise. It's something that just feels normal because it's a human experience.
Oh, wonderful. I love that idea about it being a human experience. Thank you very much, Connor. And our next question is this: are we missing out on some of the best stories because of the lack of diversity? And I want to go to Sita, since you are a novelist, a writer. I want your thoughts on that first.
Oh, I think it's like, so I'm just thinking about the Islington Refugee Centre that I work in, and there are people there displaced people there from all over the globe. And quite often we'll sit down and we'll just try to express, you know, what we're feeling on that day in poetry or in art. And within those conversations, you've got a whole globe of people with different cultures, different religions, different perspectives. But also, you know, you've also got what Gwen said, you've got a common humanity. You've got a sense of what connects us, as well as why we're different. I'm going back to the idea of home and belonging. I think unless we have the global representation and the diaspora histories of how people have got to this country and the interconnections between the diaspora, not just in this country, but the diaspora connections between people around the globe, unless we have those stories, we are kind of making ourselves a kind of narrow bookshelf, and we're only offering that to our young people. And also, it's really hard for you, and I've mentioned piecing yourself together. It's really hard for young people to piece themselves together if they don't have these narrators who are kind of helping them to connect that, say, how Asian and Caribbean people interconnect within the Caribbean and how those journeys came to Britain. All of that is what I'm fascinated with when I'm writing stories. So in order to do that, you need a huge diversity of people and storytellers to bring their different perspectives. There's not one story, this is the thing that I don't like about the kind of idea of representation, is like, other people necessarily aren't asked to represent a whole nation or a whole idea, or what a girl is, or what a boy is, or how it is to be a particular person with disability. You're not asked to represent everybody who has that. But somehow this burden of representation is placed on us. And the only reason that it is placed on us is that there isn't enough diversity. So there should be as many stories about a young Asian girl growing up in London, going to Calcutta to trace her family history, for example, as there are writers. And one story you might like, one story you might not like. You should be able to pick and choose. Until we get to that point, then we're not having the stories that can make our palette as human beings really fulfilled. There is not, like, for example, the Aya story that I've recently written, which is about the nursemaids of empire that brought the British here. There are several stories around that, going to be published. That is brilliant. You don't think, oh, that story's been written, oh, we've had that story, so there's no more. It's come from the perspective of a different writer. It will bring a different narrative, and it will bring different empathy. So more stories, more writers, more diversity of who's telling them and the perspectives they bring.
So, Sita, just to kind of add to that then, how would you then perhaps diversify the writers that are out there? Because often what we find is people like to write stories from their own experience. You, I think, are someone who has gone outside of your experience, which is wonderful. But many writers do feel more comfortable and more skilled in their own experience. So how do we get more diverse writers, or writers to do what you've done and expand their experiences? Give me some thoughts.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, my experience is diversity. So it's diversity in my family, but then in my work life, going into different communities, it's always been about learning. But also, like many of the amazing writers that I know and I'm friends with, we all do a lot of mentoring work, and we're all sort of bringing new voices with us. So, the dream, in a way, in my last book, I say, and with this book, I pass the pen and the charcoal. The dream is that you are always in your work passing the pen to somebody else, that they then bring their voice. They might read your story and they might think, oh yeah, I've got a story like that. And then they become the writer. I always say I'm quite old now, but I want to be sort of an old woman walking into a library and seeing the books of the young people who've read my books. I just want to share with you that the latest anniversary copy of Artichoke Hearts, which was just published, the 10-year anniversary, was edited by Simran Sandhu, who read the book when she was in year 10 at school. And honestly, it was the most fascinating thing for me, because she was telling me what this book meant to her when she was in year 10 at school, and how she felt it should be edited for a new age of young people. The idea that you as a writer stop learning and are not open to change is really, but writing is about learning. But actually, for me, that was what it was all about. Simran was telling me how that book had affected her in ways that I never imagined when I wrote it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Sita. That was crikey, that was an education. Thank you very much. Gwen, I'll pass it to you. Like I said, are we missing out by lack of diversity? Are we missing out on some of the best stories? What's your thoughts?
Another great question. These questions have been really thought-provoking, I think. And what Sita said there, 100% agree. I think there needs to be a conscious push to promote diverse books. I know that from the perspective of a library, we do have displays sometimes for certain awareness months and things like that. But thinking that's enough, I think, is the problem. It needs to be a conscious thing all the time. Diverse isn't its own little genre, does that make sense? It's about incorporating diverse perspectives and ideas and doing that consciously all the time, not just, you know, cherry picking and pigeonholing. I think there is a danger of kind of stereotyping exactly what Sita said, really, about, you know, a certain group is representing a whole community or a whole voice. It's not. It's one perspective, and I think, I think actively promoting and pushing books by different groups of people and you know, unrepresented voices is so important. I think I would say from libraries, a lot of library workers aren't necessarily the most diverse group of workers. And I think we need to maybe look beyond our own perspective sometimes. And it links to the idea of unconscious bias, I think. So we might think we're being neutral in our choices, but I don't think there is such thing as neutrality. And we sometimes need to take a stance, look beyond our own perspective, speak to people. And what I think with libraries as well, it's not enough to just talk to the people who are using the library, because you need to look beyond that and think, well, are there people who aren't coming in because they feel they're not represented and it's not a space for them? So I think sometimes you need to kind of step outside your bubble, speak to people and really get an understanding of what they want and the stories they're wanting to connect with and understand as well. And I think it's so powerful sometimes when you read a book and you feel, oh, this person knows how I'm feeling. And I've had that myself. I'm someone with a hidden disability. And, you know, that's something that people don't necessarily know looking at me. But then when I feel like someone's kind of understood my experience, that can be such a positive and powerful thing. And I think ensuring that people have that, because sometimes you might not realize what's going on, and then you hear someone else maybe articulate how you're feeling, and you suddenly have a moment where you're like, oh my God, this is how I'm feeling. And that connection is so important, I think.
Brilliant. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Connor, I want to pass that question to you, but kind of spice it up a little bit. You are obviously the Children's Laureate for Wales. Have you felt as though almost maybe like you're a tick box? You are from maybe a less affluent background, shall we say? You are a person of colour. Do you feel as though you are sent out into the world to represent those tick box characteristics, or do you feel you are able to tell whatever story you want to in terms of your role?
Wow, deep look. Now, that's an interesting one, because like quite similar to you, Mav, like when you won the poetry prize, like I learned recently, like I'm the first laureate of colour in Wales, like in 21 years, I think, which is crazy, you know, but I could be like, oh yeah, like that's a tick box, clearly. But I'm like, oh, no, it's my talent that gets me the job, you know, like we live in we're living in very kind of crazy times, and I think I can just tell by the nodding of heads, you know, like after, you know, everything that's kind of happened over the last 2 years, a lot of organizations, a lot of people are like, oh, let's employ more diverse. That the whole D word, you know, diversity gets thrown around all the time. So you can be made to feel like a tick box, I think, sometimes, especially when you're when you're the first, it comes with a heavy burden, doesn't it? You know, so I think it's just about reminding myself and other people that no, like you're not a tick box, it's your talent and it's your experience that gets you those jobs and puts you in those roles. So I don't feel like that, but I understand how other people might feel like that. But in terms of me kind of like going around and engaging, I'm proud and I'm happy, I guess, to kind of, because if it wasn't me, for example, it could be someone else with a far different experience and a far less engaging kind of with young people. And again, not representing so many different experiences, you know. I'm not saying, oh, I take everything, but, you know, like I'm working class from a council estate, I'm like light skin, mixed race, you know. So I remember I met one little girl who again was quite similar to me, and she was a really light skin, mixed race, and just to see someone talk openly about how, yeah, my father's black and my mother's white, but for whatever reason, you know, I've got really light skin like my mum. And you just saw her eyes open so wide because she just reflected so deep. And the teacher said afterwards, they were like, thank you so much, because you can just see the smile on her face. And it's just something as simple as that, you know? So I think, like, I've kind of gone right off topic, but you get the point, you know? Like, so I think it's not just about tick boxes, but bringing it back to the question, I think about representation and diversity is so much more than just ethnicity and skin color. It's class, it's disabilities, it's gender, it's sexuality, it's everything, you know, like that's representation. It's representing the human experience, and every human experience is different. So how do we get those experiences into the minds of people and into the eyes of readers? Then it's totally then about, having those different eclectic experiences represented, and that goes from the top down. You know, it starts with publishers who need to go out and find these people and publish them and get their books out there into libraries, into W.H. Smith, into Waterstones, into schools, you know, and get those experiences out there. So, looping it back, I think if people do ever feel like they're a tick box, I completely understand why. But I would always say it's your talent and it's your experience and it's your passion and your voice that always gets you those publishing deals, those jobs, those roles, everything.
I would definitely like to agree with you, but sometimes my angst and my annoyance is some groups of people seems though if their stuff isn't necessarily, if they're not as talented as others might be, if their output isn't as vibrant and exuberant and as kind of, you know, emotionally grabbing as others, they can still get opportunities. And that is something which I've seen across books, film, TV. But I do agree, once you are in the role, Connor, you need to feel that kind of confidence. I'm here because of me and my talents and what I bring to the table. Wonderful. Nurushan, I'd love to ask you a very similar question. What do you feel in terms of this question, in terms of diversity? Do you feel as though we are missing out on stories, or do you feel as though there are enough stories to go around?
Thanks, Marvin. And I think I'm not going to say too much because I think a lot has been said, and it's pretty much, I think, what I would say and think. But Connor touched on a really important point. I think it is not the talent and the people who are telling the stories who are failing. It's the systems that are in place that are failing people from diverse backgrounds. And that is important to know. There is a difference. And I think, you know, when we live in a world where, you know, where we live in a world where people of color or people from who are from working class backgrounds, who have different sexualities, a different gender, and I think, you know, when they feel that it's a tick box exercise, it's not on them that they feel like that. I think it's the system and us as a society that is letting people down. And I think, you know, it is talent, it is that experience, it is that different perspective that comes. And I think, you know, when we truly start to value these stories and validate people's experiences, we really start to appreciate what it's out there. So I think, you know, there's a long way to go, and I think, you know, Connor is doing an incredible job being the first person of color as a children's laureate. Yourself too, Marvin and Sita, and I think, you know, we are in a place where those that are the trailblazers, if you like, are you know, in an important role. And I'm not saying that in a lightly, and I'm saying that because I think not only are you really talented, but you are carrying a light to loads of other young people and children who, you know, who want to aspire and be like you. And I think, you know, keep doing what you're doing. And I think, you know, others will work on making sure we change these systems so we do capture more stories and more experiences. I think once we change that, I think this conversation wouldn't need to even be asked, or this question doesn't need to be even asked. Until we get to that stage, we'll always be coming back to it and fighting for it. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Wonderful. We're running out of time rapidly, so I want everyone to think of perhaps one book that they would recommend in terms of diversity. We all know that Sita's books are standard. We can recommend those as standard. But is there anything else apart from Sita's wonderful novels? And oh crikey, I'm going to get my children to get their hands on those books. Let me start with let's start with Gwen, since you're the librarian. Can you give us a list of books?
I know, I was going to say, it's so hard for me to pick one book when I've got shelves and shelves of books near me. For me, though, it links with the idea I said earlier about how we're all human and we all share kind of that kind of human needs and wants in the world. It's the book The Humans by Matt Haig. I don't know if anyone's read that. So it just explores what makes us human, and it links to the it looks at the world from an unusual perspective, and I think it kind of celebrates why we are the way we are and why we're human, and I think that book's wonderful for doing that.
Wonderful. Connor?
I was going to pick a Matt Haig, but then Gwen beat me to it, so I feel like I can't.
Go for it. You can.
No, I would say, to be fair, I would say Matt Haig's The Comfort book is an incredible book just about understanding the world that we live in and how we all navigate it individually. And I think it's one of the best books I've ever read on empathy, because he really just invite you into his world and basically just tells you that this is mine, but you have yours, you know. But if it wasn't to pick Matt Haig, then I think Small Island by Andrea Levy is a phenomenal book, and also a phenomenal play, which is at the National at the moment. So, you know, go and watch that if you can.
Niroshan?
No, thanks, Marvin. I was going to say Small Islands. Now I have to quickly think of another one. I guess I'm going to pick a different kind of book. I think I think for me, I read The Fortune Men by Nadifa Mohammed quite recently, and I think it's a really important book for us to read, especially in Wales. And I think the issues it talks about in that book we're still facing similar kinds of systems, and it writes a harrowing case of injustice. So I would definitely read it and think about our own history. So I would definitely read that book and, you know, find out something you might have never known, because it is not widely known. So I would definitely recommend that book.
Sorry. Yeah, I recently reviewed that book. It is an amazing book. It is an amazing book. The opening section of that book takes you into, thinking about this conversation about diversity. The opening section of that book makes you reflect on, this is not a new conversation. You know, this is how we have been always. Anyway, my picks have to be I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, Maya Angelou, because it still inspired my recent novel When Shadows Fall, because it talks about wings being clipped or unbalanced. And that idea of unbalancing young people's wings is kind of really central to this conversation about opportunity. When it comes down to it, the books that we read, the access to books that we have, give us the greatest opportunity, no matter where we come from, no matter what educational opportunities that we have. It is the access to books that can help us fulfill our dreams. So that Maya Angelou's work really does that. But I know this is odd, being a wordsmith, but actually it's The Arrival by Sean Tan. Everybody who can read a picture can read the humanity in that book. And it is the story of the arrival, of having to leave your homeland and arrive in a new one and begin again and rebuild your life, and the welcome that you're given. And for me, in terms of metaphor, everything everybody's been talking about is also about that, is how you're welcomed into books, how you're welcomed into a place, how you're welcomed into society. And this is an epic story. This is not like a small story. We don't have small stories. We have epic stories. We're not in a tiny little bookshelf. this is all our stories. His imagery, his sepia imagery, is just incredible, and everybody can find a little bit of their story in that graphic novel.
I'm going to do something a bit strange. I'm going to actually, in terms of my recommendation, I'm going to recommend schools and colleges to book Connor, who's on that side of me, in terms of a children's laureate for Wales, who can come in and inspire your classrooms, inspire your learners. So that is going to be my top tip. Book Connor for schools, for colleges, to experience different stories. And now I do think we may have some questions from the audience.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for that brilliant discussion. So many important and really brilliant points raised there, so thank you so much. I'm Zoe, I work at the Reading Agency, and we're very happy to be hosting this event alongside Cardiff Pubs and Libraries. So thank you everyone who's put a question in the chat so far. We're going to go through some of them and try and answer as many as we can. So the first question I've got here comes from Ethos College, and they have asked, in light of what has been discussed so far, can you explain your views on the current curriculum in schools? So just to take you back, this came in when we were talking about the kind of interconnectedness of diversity and well-being. So Narishan, I don't know if you want to maybe start us off with that one?
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Zoe. And really good question. I guess in Wales, this is changing quite a bit, quite drastically, I would say. In the next few months and years. Obviously, we have the new curriculum coming in, and the brilliant work done by Professor Charlotte Williams in encapsulating Black, Asian and history embedded throughout the curriculum is big changes. And I don't want to not overly emphasize how much of a difference that will make, because I think it will make a huge difference for children and young people across Wales. And obviously speak from a Welsh perspective here, and I think when in the past we've been let down by not seeing us reflected in any shape or form in any lessons, has been such a inhibiting factor. I think the only times I've learned anything about similar to my experience or anybody else's history or culture is when it's a very small part of history in a history lesson in year 7, 8 or 9, but then you don't go back to it. But now I think I do look forward to seeing how we can embed our new curriculum, making sure, you know, we do get more authors, more content. And let me emphasize, this won't just be in English and history, but it will be in science and all the other lessons as well, where we can be taught about the whole human experience as we talked about. So yeah, I think there's some positive steps, but ask me this question in 5 years and we'll see where we're at, because that is the true test of any new curriculum or any new initiative that's put in place, is the difference that it makes and how we have these conversations.
Brilliant, thank you. Does anyone else have any kind of thoughts on Marvin? I was going to say, as a form teacher, I'm sure you have some thoughts.
Yeah, my thoughts are, as a parent or a young person, don't wait for the teachers. Curriculums can move slowly, changes can move slowly. I don't wait personally as a parent. I don't wait for teachers to teach my children about Jamaican history or Indian history or any world history. I have those conversations on a regular basis. We jump on YouTube, watch some documentaries, we read some books, we do it at home. So I'm loving the new curriculum, but I'm saying to parents and young people, if you want to learn something, especially in the internet age, you learn it today. That's my top tip.
Brilliant, thank you so much. So another question that I wanted to ask was, obviously books are a brilliant way to introduce children to experiences outside of their own, to encourage empathy, but reading isn't always every child's favourite activity. Some children struggle with it, some children feel that there's a barrier there. So do you have any kind of advice for children who maybe aren't as confident readers of how they can kind of progress in that reading journey and kind of surround themselves with these kind of really brilliant, diverse books? Gwen, maybe you'd like to start with that one.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I'm involved in a reading challenge in the college where we try and get reluctant readers to read, but we don't specify books. We call them reads. So that can literally be anything. It can be lyrics to their favorite songs. It can be poetry, comics, anything. And it's about getting people to connect with these stories and these voices, rather than, you know, rigidly thinking books are the only way to go. I think, you know, reading anything or even just consuming media in, you know, in all its forms, it's about the stories, I think, not the format it's in. So we encourage people to just connect with things in whichever way they want to, really.
That's really brilliant. Thank you. Sita or Connor, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that one. Sita, I know you were talking about Arrival.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think audiobooks are a fantastic way for many young people. You know, I mentioned Sean Tan, we read a picture and then we can make up that interaction between being a reader and also being a creative yourself. For me, that's a really important part of well-being and diversity. So I'm going to read this image, and then I'm going to go and make my own story up and become a writer. I was not early to learn to read. I realized that I probably would now have a statement for dyslexia, but I didn't have that as a child. So it took me ages to learn to read. But I have done a lot of work with Barrington Stoke publishers, and actually one of the stories, Worry Angels, is translated into Welsh now. And you know those stories are fantastic stories, but they have certain things taken out of them that make it difficult for some readers to engage with. And so, you know, that's a whole kind of publishing around access to books Barrington Stoke's done, which I think is amazing. And those books are being read by everybody now. So I would recommend those. But also, I think that thing about a song is a story. I think also in terms of the curriculum, I just want to say that how stories are told are impacting on people's lives, whether they live or die. We've seen that in the pandemic, whether stories are truthful or not. Young people, I personally believe that the curriculum on all aspects needs to be revolutionized so that young people can start to critique the truth and the untruths of the stories that they're being told in very many different mediums.
That's really brilliant. Thank you. And yeah, just to kind of emphasize, listening to audiobooks is also reading. It's also experiencing words and stories. So never think that listening to audiobooks is a lesser form of engaging with writing. We might have some children watching today who maybe would like to be authors themselves one day, or kind of interested in writing. So I was wondering what advice maybe Connor you would have for the young people watching about being a writer.
Not that I know anything about that, but
I'm sure you know a few things.
My advice would be just write, and yeah, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be laid out in a certain structure. Just write, whether it's a paragraph, 15 pages, or 2 sentences. Just express how you feel and just write. You know, because there's no right way, there's no wrong way of writing. Like, writing is just an expression. So yeah, my advice would be just if you're passionate about writing, then just write, because there's 7 billion people on this planet, and I'm pretty sure whatever you're writing will resonate and will reflect with someone else, whether that's next week, next month, or in 10 years time. So my advice is always just keep on writing, and don't be disheartened when people tell you, oh, but that doesn't make sense, or that's not a beginning, a middle, and end. Like, that's all stuff you can work on, you know. So just write is my advice.
Brilliant, thank you. Marvin, I don't know if you have any thoughts to add as a poet.
You know what? Music. I'm just thinking to myself, I love music, and what inspires me a lot is music. So if you have certain genres or certain songs that really inspire you, let the inspiration fill you up, and then, as Connor says, turn to the page and just express yourself.
That's brilliant, thank you. So I think we probably have time for one last question. So I wanted to go back to kind of the early discussion about kind of whether children should be shown books that kind of allow them to empathize with other people, or if it's about representing people's own experiences. And obviously there are lots of books which kind of, you know, teach quite explicitly about the kind of struggles and prejudices of towards certain groups, but there's also loads of brilliant books which are about the joys of different cultures and different people. So I wondered if you have any thoughts on kind of the importance of balance in those books with the books that do explicitly deal with the kind of struggles that people have faced historically? Marvin?
Yeah, do you know what? What I think we forget in this culture is people have gone through struggles are heroes because they came out of those struggles and showed the world how to make society even better. So we shouldn't downgrade those stories. We should uplift them and say, these are the heroes that allowed women to vote, that allowed Black people in America to vote, that allowed, you know, working class people in Wales to vote. These are the heroes we should be elevating. And I think once we elevate those stories, we will see that those stories are massively important. And within those stories, we can look at the humanity of each person, but we can also look at the gift they gave us, the gift of fighting for what is right and allowing those new freedoms to empower everyone in society.
Brilliant, thank you. Gwen, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I think similarly. I think it is about showing the struggles that people face, definitely, and also celebrating different cultures, different backgrounds, different experiences as well. So yeah, I do think I agree with what Marvin has said, essentially. I don't think I can say it any better.
That's brilliant, thank you. Niroshan, I don't know if you have any final thoughts on that one.
No, I don't think so. And I think all I'll say is just, yeah, I think embrace the experience, try something new, you know, don't be afraid to, you know, pick up something that you might not do. I think it's just about, you know, taking that initial first step in immersing yourself in other people's experiences, because I think it'll take you far. So yeah, don't be afraid. You don't have to read what everyone else reads. Just get yourself, listen to something, watch something, read something, you know, and immerse yourself in other people's experiences, because yeah, it will help you understand and look at the better world in a different perspective.
Lovely, thank you so much. I think that's a brilliant note to end on. So thank you so much to all of our panel. I'm going to hand back over now to Gordon.
Yeah, thanks very much, Natalie. But yeah, this has been fabulous this morning. I've just been sitting quietly and enjoying it. It's really been wonderful to hear this conversation today and be part of the event. So the most important thing to do is to say thank you to our amazing panel today, and to Marvin, for everybody who's been watching and supporting the event today. I hope you feel like I do. It's been really valuable hearing everyone's views on the questions that have been raised today. Obviously, I need to just remind you that you can get a bit more information about the Winter of Wellbeing campaign, of which this is a part, via the Reading Agency webpage, readingagency.org.uk/Winter of Wellbeing. You can also watch this event again. It'll be hosted on there as a video, and you can read more about the campaign, as I say, in general. Got to thank the Reading Agency team for supporting this event and doing all the heavy lifting, really, so that I've been able to just kind of ride along with it. It's been really beautifully organised. So thank you guys for that, to Zoe and Jenny and others. And I just I wanted to kind of end on one little thing as well, which is we've heard some great discussion today, and I found a lot of it quite moving as well. And whilst it's only one segment of what we've been talking about, and we know that not everyone will necessarily grow up to be a writer, but I was very interested in that, talking about inspiring a next generation on. And I think Sita was quoting from her own work with that line, and with this book I passed the pen and the charcoal. And that is the line that's sort of echoing nicely around my head, and I'll be remembering that for quite a while. I think, and I hope I've quoted it correctly there and not messed it up. But so yeah, I'll be thinking about this myself for quite a while, I can tell you that. It's been really lovely. So I wanted to say thank you again to everybody. We'll be closing down the event shortly, and thank you very much for coming.